So I look at the camera, right?
Mhm.
Got it.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Could you tell us your name, your title, and where you work?
Sure. So my name is Nicole Hoke. I am currently a logistics manager at Ascend Performance Materials with a background in engineering, and I've worked in manufacturing and in continuous improvement.
Okay, where did you go to college?
I went to the Ohio State University. I took chemical engineering at Ohio State, and I also did 2 years of chemistry at University of Cincinnati.
Nice. So we'll just start off with what is your favorite thing about your job?
So the thing I like the most about the job is the people. When I first went into engineering, my thought was I was technical and I was going to love being the person who did the calculations and all the math, and it turns out I ended up liking the people side a lot more than the technical side. So I enjoy building relationships and meeting new people, helping to maximize potential in young adults, and helping to find the right roles for different folks. So the people growth is where I enjoy.
What was your favorite subject when you were in high school?
So I loved chemistry. I hated math. It's funny because now I'm an engineer. My chemistry teacher helped me to understand what fun could be with science. I hadn't been able to put those two together in my past, so he helped me understand that, and then it kind of went from it's fun to wow, I get it. I understand why this works, and I started to appreciate the science behind a lot of different things. So when I went to look for a major, I actually talked with him about it and asked him if he thought I would be good at something in the field of chemistry. And he said, of course, I think you could be good at anything you did. And that helped to catapult me into making decisions into what I wanted to do.
Nice. So tell us what your normal day is like in your job. And maybe explain a little bit more about what your job is. What does it do to be a logistics
Okay.
person?
So right now, my job is to manage getting stuff from here to there. And that entails using different, I'm sure folks have seen rail cars riding on the railroads, and then you've got barges that go over the water, trucks that go over the road. Most of what I do is try to execute the shipment from point A to point B. And I don't physically do that, I oversee the group that does that. So my job is to ensure that my team is capable of doing those activities. I remove barriers that stand in front of them on an everyday basis. We get different things that could potentially be an issue, but for the most part, then I help them get projects that they need funded or help them work through different issues, and I provide support from a leadership perspective up and down the chain.
And these students might not know what Ascend Materials is, so you're not just transporting material through Pensacola.
You're right. So Ascend Materials makes nylon. We make nylon pellets that go into molded plastics, and we make fibers that go into anything from carpet to textiles. We also sell some intermediate type products that go into applications such as solvents like paints, and we sell material that goes into anti-static type applications. So we even have there's a new brand of anti-static that's coming out in curtains. So we make a bunch of different stuff. And we have plants in 5 different locations. So we have a plant in Texas, in Chocolate Bayou, Decatur, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Foley, and Greenwood, South Carolina. And when we talk about shipments, we talk about from all those locations to various places in the world, across North America, as well as exporting overseas to Europe and Asia.
So a pretty big
Pretty
distance.
big.
Yeah.
Pretty big
Yeah,
distance.
okay. So we already found out where you went to college, and I think you told us what your degree is. And so how did you go from being a chemical engineer, maybe if people, they graduate college, they're interested in engineering, what were your options and what brought you into where you are now, and what have you done prior to?
So I am a chemical engineer. I went to Ohio State for that. I came out of school with a really great idea of how to do theoretical equations. I took a job in manufacturing down here, and I grew up in Ohio, so I was ready for a change, and Florida was a great place to start, near the beach. So I took a job down here, and I learned very quickly that college taught me a lot about theory, but the application in real life is different. So I did a lot of on-the-job training when I got here that required me to use how I learned to think in college. So I learned how to be analytical and how to think through a problem in 5 levels, 5 whys. Why is this? Why is this? Well, why is this? And to ask the right questions. But the actual work and understanding came when I got to the job, and I was able to apply some of the theory, but learn the real type application of what I had learned in school. So I would say that learning curve took about a year for me to feel comfortable with saying, no, this is what I believe is going to happen. This is the calculations. And when I came, I loved engineering. I was really passionate about finding answers, fixing problems, helping the operations run smoother. And I did that for about 6 years. So, and then and I find myself in a place where I like to try new things and I like new challenges. So when about 6 years came, I started to talk to my supervisor about potential opportunities for me to explore options outside of what I was doing. And I had 2 little kids at the time, so I was trying to balance my work and life a little bit better, and manufacturing is a 24/7 type job. So I wanted to have something that wasn't so on the weekends and at nights potentially that I could work on. So I had talked to a few different folks, and then a position came available to me for a continuous improvement leader for the site. This focused on using some of the skills that I had built up over the years on problem solving, working through problems from, hey, we don't know how to fix this, to developing a pathway to the solution. It was 6 Sigma based, so I have some statistics background, but not nearly enough to start the job. However, I felt like that would be a good opportunity for me to step in and get some continued education. So I did, and I took a risk, and it wasn't. I didn't understand everything about the job before I took it, but when I did, I recognized that I was growing a lot. I went from being an engineer with a world this big to all of a sudden I had everybody at the site who was coming to me with their problems, and I had a bigger world. And when I learned that, I learned a lot about how to solve problems I didn't know anything about, how to help people understand the right questions. And so I felt like that was a good opportunity for me to build relationships across the facility, also to kind of flex muscles that I hadn't been flexing in the area that I was working in. And then after that, I did that job for 2.5 years, and I was approached to take on coming back into operations, and this role would be in a leadership position over an area of responsibility of manufacturing. So I had felt a little bit like, okay, I figured out the continuous improvement thing. I was ready for a change, and it came at the right time. So I came on board, and then I was, instead of being the one at the engineering level on the front lines, I was the person overseeing the entire operation, both the people and the process, which was an intimidating role. Again, I went into it with a limited amount of understanding what the job actually was, but it was a risk, and you do a lot of thought partnering with your family and other colleagues at work to understand what decision you want to make. Moved into that role, and then it was kind of one of those OJT roles again, you on the job training. There's not a handbook that says here's how you lead people. There's a lot of personal growth that happens as you move through that. A lot of different resources, trainings, external, and also just, being yourself. So I found that, I tried to follow a path of how to lead people that was kind of stamped out for me, but the most effective time when I actually connected with people on a basic level on what I need you to do and what the expectations are was when I was being myself, and it took me a little bit of time to learn that. So I did that for about 3 years, and that was an amazing growth opportunity for me. It was my first leadership position. And then, like most manufacturing jobs, it is 24/7, so you can only do it for so long. And I was ready for a change. And then I received a phone call about a potential complete change for me, going from a chemical engineering type, this is all manufacturing, to, hey, let's try logistics, which is a totally different area. So that was an extremely intimidating move. But I had my leadership at the time, and then the leadership of the new position that I was being recruited for, to say, hey, we just need somebody to come in with a fresh set of eyes and take a look. So I took a chance, and it worked out for my work-life balance a little bit better. I'm more flexible with, what I can do when I have to be at work, different things. So it provided me the right level of engagement at the right time in my life too. And now I'm learning an area I know nothing about a year ago. So it's an exciting time.
Well, and what I hear you say, Nicole, that I think the students are going to find interesting is your passion for chemistry has never changed.
Right.
And so that's one reason why you like in these other fields, but I think a lot of times we think of your dream job and you're going to get it the minute you step off of college. And instead of thinking what's your entry level and realizing you're going to get to grow and explore through your whole career. So with that, because I think so often we talk about what besides a grade point average you need, and you've highlighted some things that weren't just that you had right after college, but what you continue to do. So what helped you get your job, the first job, and what allowed you to move up within the company? Was it internships? Was it networking? What were those things that you think got you to these different positions and continuing to get to ask to move up?
So the entry job was a bit of a struggle for me. I had to work really hard in college. I was not one of the kids who were lucky and just understood everything the first time they read it. So my GPA wasn't the highest in the class. I interviewed at a few companies, and I had several interviews at a company in Ohio, and then I had this interview down here. But it was a little bit more challenging. So if I could recommend anything, it's to make sure you work hard. And the unfortunate part is the GPA matters at that entry level. It really does. Once you get into a company, though, you have the ability to demonstrate who you are and how you work, because work ethic is not demonstrated all the time in a GPA, I feel. So what I did was I came down here to work, and I did the work. I did the stuff that nobody did. I asked the questions that were hard, and I filled in a hole in the team. They had an opening. I filled in that hole, and I did a good job, and I was recognized when I went above and beyond. So going above and beyond to me means, hey, this is my list of things that are expected of me. But oh, by the way, I'm also I'm gonna put my name out there to help lead, the A2E launching for the team, which is our continuous improvement. I'm going to try to become a part of a wellness team, or, you try to get into other areas that aren't just specifically what you've been hired to do, and you get exposure. And when you get that exposure and you start to develop those, relationships, you get almost credibility at different levels. So when people find there's an opportunity that comes up, they think, oh, who would be good is that lady that I work with on this team, and suddenly you start to get consideration for things that maybe weren't possible if you were following the rigor of your job description. So I would encourage you, when you step into a role, absolutely you have to be a top performer. You have to do everything that you need to do. But definitely reach out and try to involve yourself in other areas that the company is passionate about. And you make yourself, you're passionate about too. Pair yourself with those.
Nicole, thank you. That was fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Well, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.